In typical partisan political fashion, nobody wants to accept responsibility for the sluggish response to the coronavirus. And for the most part, I don't think any one group of people or person is wholly responsible for the outbreak, except for China. They were the ones who were obfuscating data and making it hard for us to respond to this properly. Now, early on, Donald Trump started the task force. He suspended travel from China. And while this was going on, the Democrats were trying to impeach him. Mitch McConnell came out and said it was the impeachment that distracted us and slowed our response. Now, Donald Trump responded to this saying he doesn't think he would have acted any differently, even if he wasn't being impeached. And that was kind of a freebie for the Democrats because they're being accused of slowing things up. Well, Nancy Pelosi, leader of the Democrats, has responded to Mitch McConnell. And the way she's responded, dare I say, is going to backfire really bad on her. You see, she lied. Sort of. Well, she's claiming she knew about the coronavirus. And this is where it gets confusing. If she knew about this, then what did she do? Did she ignore it? Why was she prioritizing the impeachment of Donald Trump when she knew this was going on? It's fair to say it's not that she ignored it, but she didn't think it was very serious. If that's the case, why is she actually saying in the same paragraph that Donald Trump's delay cost lives? He was acting much sooner than you were, and you claimed you knew about it. Now, here's where it gets even worse for her. She claims she knew about it, but on February 24th, she was encouraging people to gather publicly. Just own it. None of us saw this coming. No one did. I mean, some people did. In January, Fox News was talking about it, but everybody, no one really expected we'd see hundreds of thousands of people. The president didn't. You didn't think so. Nobody did. To play this game now and act like you were somehow on the ball, but encouraging public gatherings just shows that you were willfully putting people's lives at risk. So no, this lie doesn't seem to make sense. And to make matters worse, during the State of the Union address, Donald Trump on I believe it was February 5th, said that he was taking precautions to protect America from the coronavirus. And after that, Nancy, you tore up that speech. I do not believe it's fair to say that you knew what was going on. You didn't. Right now, Donald Trump has finally invoked the Defense Production Act to make sure masks made in America stay in America. Joe Biden is nowhere to be seen, and Democratic leadership is focused on investigating the president again. So if you want to talk about blame, first and foremost, China, 90-something%. Certainly there are people in America who are more deserving of blame than others. Most of it goes to China. But I do have to be critical. How can you come out and blame the president for what's going on when you are focused on investigations instead of actually saving American lives? Now, it is true that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are going to be working on the next stimulus package, so good on them. But Adam Schiff is now starting a fact-finding mission to investigate the president's response. How does that help us? We've got Andrew Cuomo, who just signed an executive order to commandeer emergency medical equipment from other hospitals in the state. Good on him. See, there's a Democrat doing something right. But in Congress, you have Pelosi and Schiff going for investigations and lying about what's really happening. You have Chuck Schumer doing the same thing. They all claim they knew about it, but they were ignoring it. So no, you can't claim Trump downplayed this and delayed when he did more than you were doing. Let's read through this story and I'll break it all down for you. We'll talk a little bit about the latest efforts Trump has taken, which it could be. Well, there's a risk to international relations. The FBI is seizing exports on medical equipment. Canada's angry. Not that I think it necessarily matters, because why would we give our medical supplies away to other countries when we're in desperate need? But let's focus on the first portion of this, what Nancy Pelosi has said and how this lie is going to backfire on her, or maybe it already did. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, share this video. If you think I do a good job, sharing just helps my content. And make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. That really helps. And hit the notification bell if you want to get more content like this. Newsweek reports, Pelosi rips McConnell for blaming coronavirus response on impeachment. Says he didn't face reality. That delay cost lives. In an interview earlier today with MSNBC anchor person Andrea Mitchell, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi blasted Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for his comment on Tuesday, claiming that the impeachment trial diverted presidential and congressional Republican attention from the threat of coronavirus emerging in China. Quote, "That's so sad," Pelosi said. "They can't handle their jobs, I guess, because what are they saying? We ignored it? It was self-evident. Most people knew about it, and certainly those of responsibility." So I say of that, either you can't handle your job, but don't blame impeachment on that. Just blame it on the fact that you didn't want to face the reality, and that denial and that delay cost lives. It wasn't the Democrats who started the travel restriction from China. It wasn't the Democrats who started the task force. You were focused on impeachment. She added, she's not surprised considering that the Trump administration supports a Supreme Court case challenging the constitutionality of the Obama-era health plan. That the case was brought forth by governors of red states and could effectively shut down ACA and its protections, leaving an estimated 20 million people without health insurance. It's really, really funny. Man, it is a weird time to be a Democrat. Gallup poll shows congressional approval for Republicans in Congress is higher than that of Democrats. And you're going to love this next part. In a hilarious meme-style post from June Schuonhead, she points out something quite hilarious, just to refute that one point. A story from Business Insider. Trump says it doesn't seem fair that 30 million Americans are uninsured and suggests he may expand Medicare or Medicaid. That sounds almost like universal health care coming from Trump. That's surprising. And what's this? On MSNBC just now, Joe Biden tells Yasmin he opposes Medicare for all. What? So Donald Trump didn't come out and say Medicare for all. He said, we've got to figure this out. It's not fair. We can't have 30 million people uninsured. And we're basically in a big emergency. Nancy Pelosi wants to throw shade at Trump, but your nominee is to the right of Trump on healthcare reform. What? You know what, man? This is the weirdest timeline. Someone asked Trump a question and he said, it's a fair point. We've got to figure out what we do for these people. I don't know what you expect. I don't know how this is sustainable. And I don't like the idea of a free trial to communism, or okay, that's a little hyperbolic, a free trial to socialism. But in times of an emergency, I don't think giving people emergency aid for now is socialism. It's an emergency, right? That's when it's good. You don't want to have this thing running forever. But to Trump's credit as well, Trump says he wouldn't have acted differently on coronavirus without impeachment. So Nancy Pelosi's mad at Mitch McConnell for saying it, but Trump actually is kind of on her side. And it's true. Check this out. The State of the Union address, the full text. I have the full transcript pulled up. Here's a snippet. Protecting Americans' health also means fighting infectious diseases. We are coordinating with the Chinese government and working closely together on the coronavirus outbreak in China. My administration will take all necessary steps to safeguard our citizens from this threat. Incredible. In early February, about a week after he started the task force, he addressed the nation about this. How can you claim the president had downplayed it too much when he literally said, we are focusing on this? And the Democrats, what did Nancy Pelosi do? As most of you know, she tears up Trump's State of the Union speech in possible 2020 tipping point, they say. Why was Pelosi so angry? Maybe it was the fact that Trump is totally getting away with undermining the election, or maybe it was all the lying. Was this a lie? Incredible. The State of the Union, a lie. That's what I find most fascinating about the argument against the State of the Union address, is that she's justified in doing this because she didn't like that he was lying. Well, there you go. One of the most important statements made on the matter. And no, it wasn't a lie. It was true. We were facing a very serious threat. Many of us didn't know how bad it would get. And no, you're not justified in doing this. If Nancy Pelosi really knew about this, then why, on February 24th, did she encourage public gatherings? Because own it, dude. You didn't know about this, and that's fine. The impeachment was a mistake. Everyone knows it was a mistake. It's about time you owned up to it. Even Donald Trump pointed out in his letter to Schumer that it just made his polls go up. Yet here we go. Democrats want to investigate Trump, once again, not getting on board to actually help. Chuck Schumer sent a letter to the president that apparently he didn't even know what was going on. He asked for things that Trump had already done. He's clearly not paying attention. I just don't get it, man. Check this out. Pelosi encouraged public gatherings in late February, weeks after Trump's China travel ban. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was out in San Francisco's Chinatown in late February, encouraging people to go out in public and spend money at local businesses despite concerns regarding the spread of the coronavirus. Quote, "It's exciting to be here, especially at this time, to be able to be unified with our community," Pelosi said on February 24th. "We want to be vigilant about what is out there in other places. We want to be careful about how we deal with it. But we do want to say to people, come to Chinatown, here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us." 2 days later, The San Francisco Chronicle ran a story titled, "Get Ready Now for Probable Coronavirus Pandemic in U.S. Federal Officials Warn." President Trump banned travel to the U.S. from China by foreign nationals in late January. On March 19th, California Governor Newsom implemented a lockdown of the entire state, shuttering bars, restaurants, and other non-essential businesses. Okay. Pelosi didn't really know. She's lying now. I can accept that. But I can still point out that if the president mentioned this in his State of the Union address, maybe you shouldn't have ripped it up. Maybe you should have been paying attention to what he was saying instead of calling it all lies. Maybe when Trump said, we're going to ban travel from China, you should have paid attention and not encouraged massive public gatherings in major urban centers. It's no surprise now what's happening in New York. New York, the hardest hit hotspot in the country, because Bill de Blasio and his administration were saying, go out and celebrate. So everybody who gets sick, well, you encouraged it. I'm not going to blame you for that. Many people didn't understand. But you said Trump's delay cost lives. When Trump banned travel, you wanted people to go out. You went the other direction. It just doesn't make sense. You got to own it. Otherwise, what you're really telling the world is that you purposefully put people's lives at risk. Come on, I don't think that's true. You just need to accept that you were wrong. Pelosi attacked Trump over the weekend for not doing more to combat the spread of the virus. The president, his denial at the beginning was deadly. His delaying of getting equipment to where it continues his delaying in getting equipment to where it's needed is deadly. This is such a tragedy. We don't even know the magnitude of it because we don't have adequate testing. Trump responded to the remarks Monday, calling House Speaker a sick puppy. How about this? So this is the story from San Francisco, right? So we know within a couple days they were saying it was getting bad. But how about this one? Chuck Schumer, February 9th. So proud to join the Chinatown Lunar New Year Parade today in New York City. Wishing everyone health, happiness, and good fortune. Year of the Rat. This is great. I have no problem with this. Good on you, Chuck Schumer. No one saw it coming. And you wanted to go out and celebrate with everybody. And I think that's a fine thing. But none of you can pretend now that Trump was slow on this and you were faster because you were doing nothing. Of course, now what they're doing is, Schiff and Pelosi are launching these investigation or oversight committees. The latest update on this front, Devin Nunes decries stunt. Fox News reports House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, who a little over 2 months ago led Democrats' prosecution in President Trump's impeachment trial, following an extensive investigation, is working to launch a new review concerning the administration's actions, this time calling for a nonpartisan commission on the government's coronavirus response. Schiff, after repeatedly criticizing the president's response to the COVID pandemic, said Wednesday he would work to create a panel to review the government's actions and readiness. How hilarious is that? Could you imagine that, someone warned you of something and the other dude is sitting around just not paying attention. And then once you get started on this, that guy starts complaining you didn't do a good enough job. Schiff was asleep on the job. He was super concerned about how the Orange Man was bad. And so he was not prepared for this. Neither was Pelosi, neither was Schumer. Trump could have done more. I've said it a million times, but they were doing nothing. So how does it make sense that they're criticizing him now? It absolutely does not. And this is why Donald Trump can expect to win again. Check out this story. Former Obama advisor Plouffe predicts historical level of turnout by Trump supporters. You know why? No one is blaming Trump for this. Why the Democrats are trying to, I have no idea. But even among independents and Democrats, Trump's approval rating as it pertains to the coronavirus is going up. And I've said it a million times, but yes, it just keeps going up. The Hill reports former Obama campaign manager David Plouffe on Thursday predicted that supporters of President Trump will turn out at a historical level on Election Day, creating a very dangerous scenario for former Vice President Joe Biden. Plouffe, speaking to the Fox News Rundown podcast shortly after record-high jobless claims were announced, said Trump voters will head to the polls to cast their ballots for the president despite the coronavirus pandemic and economic fallout. You look at the economic situation and say, how can an incumbent win in that? But no one's blaming Trump for the damage, Plouffe said. I think if you can lay his crisis response at his feet and connect that to the economy, I do think that's some headwind he's got to run into. Plouffe, who was considered the architect of former President Obama's successful 2008 White House bid, said Trump is still well positioned for repeat victories in Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin because his base is so solid. And I think he's going to turn out voters almost at a historical level on his behalf. So that makes him very dangerous if you're Joe Biden. Isn't it hilarious that I am basically saying the same thing as Obama's principal advisor? Don't believe the hype. We're not talking about policy positions. We're talking about weird tribalism. Tribalism, I don't care about. If Nancy Pelosi came out and admitted they were distracted and they want to work now, I would give them credit. Andrew Cuomo is taking actions. I don't like the partisan bickering, but for the most part, I think he's doing the best job he can, and he has my support in that regard. Because right now, that's what we should be focused on. Cuomo, the Democrat, Trump, the Republican. Let's make sure they both get what they need to save lives and get us through this. Now is not the time for investigations, partisan bickering, and that goes for Mitch McConnell too. Look, I get it. The impeachment was bad, but even Trump is not playing that game. So Mitch McConnell wants to come out and throw shade at the Democrats. I don't think that's appropriate. Nancy Pelosi, don't come back and lie. And good on Donald Trump for not playing that game and saying, no, I wouldn't have done anything differently. That's respectable. The Hill says, Trump won what were considered blue wall states, including Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania in 2016, when he unexpectedly defeated Hillary Clinton. Biden holds small leads over Trump in each of those three states, according to the Real Clear Politics Index of polls, while Trump has a slight edge in Florida. In a Gallup poll released last week, 94% of Republicans approve of the president's performance, with his job approval at 49% among all voters. A recent ABC News Washington Post survey found that 74% of Biden voters support him enthusiastically, compared to 86% of Trump supporters who back the president. Now, that is misleading. They're not showing you the real breakdown. The real breakdown is Joe Biden does not have enthusiastic support. He has like 26% of his base saying they're not enthusiastic at all, and 49% who are somewhat, whereas Trump has 53% that are extremely enthusiastic. What we're seeing now is that liberals, this person, Obama's advisor, can recognize whatever your policy position is, Trump is poised to win, and the Democrats just aren't pulling it off. Nobody blames Donald Trump for this. And now, in what may be the weirdest 180 I have ever seen, Trump says it doesn't seem fair that 30 million Americans are uninsured and suggests he may expand Medicare or Medicaid. What? Now, Trump might not do this, and I don't necessarily know if it's a good idea. For an emergency, perhaps. You know, here's what might happen. Because of the coronavirus and because of how long it'll take, we might actually be forced to implement some kind of national Medicare for all system. My understanding with the national healthcare systems in Europe is that World War II made it essential. You had to do it because people had no means. The economy was in shambles and they had to implement something. Trump might not do it. I don't think he necessarily will. But he literally just pulled the rug out from all of the other Democrats, because not only is it true that he's not playing the bickering game, to a certain degree he is, but he's not jumping in the fray between McConnell and Pelosi. He's actively doing things like invoking the Defense Production Act, which Democrats have demanded. And now he's to the left of Joe Biden, whether he implements this or not. Joe Biden is straight up saying, no, the coronavirus hasn't changed Joe Biden's mind on Medicare for all. Single payer will not solve that at all, he said Monday. But Donald Trump says it might. You know what, man? Trump probably wouldn't implement this. I'd be surprised if he did. But he just won the talking point versus Biden. That's, to me, the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But let's talk about what Trump's really doing. You want to talk about delayed response, whatever. Here's what the Democrats are doing right now. Pelosi and Schiff are actively engaging in some kind of oversight and investigation. Why? I just don't know. But Trump has invoked the Defense Production Act to mandate 3M Corporation, the 3M Corporation, to produce more masks, bring them here. Now, 3M pushed back saying, no, we must export these masks for international relations. It's an interesting argument. Their argument is that, Canada and Latin American countries would shut off exports to our country if Trump invoked this. But it's going to happen. Like in New York, Cuomo did basically the same thing. Look at this. Cuomo signs order for New York to commandeer ventilators and protective gear. Where's the criticism towards Cuomo for doing something? Now, I get it. Cuomo's not necessarily dealing with international borders. He kind of is, because New York has a border with Canada. But 3M is arguing they should be allowed to sell masks that we need in our shortage to a foreign country. I understand that Canada and other countries need medical equipment as well. But can we secure the masks of the person sitting next to us before we secure our own? You're not supposed to do that. In which case, we have a shortage. We are quite literally going to put our own masks on first before we give any away. Otherwise, we won't be able to help anyone. NPR says a key maker of N95 masks, 3M, is arguing against a Trump administration request. Well, it's not a request. Trump signed a Defense Production Act order Thursday specifically aimed at requiring 3M to prioritize orders from the U.S. government. The president and others have criticized 3M, with some officials saying it allows or even encourages profiteering during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Trump, he's doing stuff. Things are happening, for better or for worse. Now he's being slammed and smeared in the media. That is not what we need right now. And I wish Pelosi and Schiff would get off their high horses and do what we're seeing Cuomo do. Fight COVID. Fight for the American people. Stop just screaming that the orange man is bad. Trudeau is not happy about it. Trudeau of Canada warns U.S. against denying exports of medical supplies to Canada. And he basically says that if you block exports here, we'll block exports back, and we rely on each other. I can't tell you what to expect, but over in Europe, there is a war breaking out for coronavirus masks, essentially. CNN calls it the war for masks. But Europe is supposed to be this union. They're supposed, but they're not. They're shutting down borders with each other and things are escalating. I'm going to leave it here because I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of what other countries are doing. I just wanted to bring out one simple point. The president is doing things. He could be doing better, probably, whatever you want to base it on. Some people don't like the guy and they think he's not doing good enough. That's a fair point. What do you compare it to? But the fact remains, and forgive me for saying it so much, but we cannot solve this problem without everyone helping, without everyone getting on board to do what they need to do. Now, my respect will go to the Democrats they're coming forward for the stimulus package. My understanding is that many of them are actually abandoning these weird provisions they wanted put in the first place and going for a more streamlined package. So that's what we need to see from them. You will absolutely get my respect if you do the right thing. So to that, I say thank you. It's the right thing to do. Let's get a streamlined, simplified bill. None of this weird bloat in it that gives money to weird organizations. We just need to make sure the economy functions. And we don't need, climate change provisions and like emissions testing and like gender equity stuff. So that's my understanding that they've actually walked away from that. Good. Let's get the job done. For the time being, let me just say, please, drop the investigation nonsense, stop bickering and complaining, and don't pretend that you knew, because you've basically admitted to putting people at risk. That's insane. I'm not going to play a game where I'm going to be like, aha, Pelosi admits she was trying to get people sick. No. She's just trying to save face right now, and she's lying doing it. I wish it wasn't the case, but it seems to be over the past several years, it's all we've ever gotten from them, which is why I'm basically out. Because I got my complaints about Republicans, but I'll tell you what, the reason why the Gallup poll shows Republicans in Congress with a higher approval than Democrats is because the Democrats have been bouncing back and forth, and all they've really been saying is orange man bad instead of actively trying to do things to help people. Of course, Democrats have done things to help people. I'm saying too much of what they do, the majority of what they do is focused on being angry at Republicans, and the same is true for the media. This is why trust in media is going down. We can't function this way. Y'all need to stop and just fight to help people survive this. Next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews, 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.